So this is a 12 volt rechargeable lithium ion battery made by Talent Cell, 6000 milliamp. It has one speaker at the top, and I cut a hole in the mini keg to place all the parts inside of it. Inside we have a Bluetooth amplifier, a switch to turn on and off the stereo, a USB charger if you want to plug in a phone charger or anything else on USB. You can also buy these with the Type-C connector for the more updated charger cables. This is for recharging the battery. These holes are where the amp knobs stick through. Put the feet on the bottom so it sits nicely, and put a handle on it. When you order the battery, it comes with its own charging cable. This is the DC 5521 type, or 5.5 millimeter by 2.1 millimeter. So instead of the two red and black terminals on the battery like in my other video, this one just has the one plug-in. And that's the same type of connection for all these other pieces, like the recharge port has that style. The amplifier also has this style connection. And when you order the battery, it also comes with this cord. You can technically use this cord to power the whole boombox. You'll put one side in the battery, you can put the other male into the amplifier, and then that will give the amp the power it needs to run. And then you could use the female side here to plug in your charger. So for the cords that I used, I ended up ordering some of these standard connectors here. I use this for the recharge port. I like it because it's got this threadable nut which is easy to mount on the can, and then it's just got a red and a black wire, and then this is another cord with just a red and a black that can be used for taking the power from the battery. And then I'll use these connector boxes here to plug that in, and then I can plug extra accessories into these. So after you have that battery hooked up to these connector boxes, the parts that I'll usually add to that will be the recharge port. It goes right there, so it has direct access to the battery. I will include a switch which will control the amplifier, and I have a few different switches here. This is an easy one because it's just got 3 wires. I use this switch for the mini keg because it fits perfectly in this hole, which comes with a dispensing spout for the keg. I remove that, and then this switch has a threaded nut which you can easily tighten down. It is a little tricky to wire this because it's got so many wires here for different configurations on when the light is on. It can be always on. I have it so that it comes on when the switch is on. I've got 5 wires here. One of them is not used. One of them goes to the negative side of the battery, one goes to the positive side of the battery, and then 2 of them get linked together and go to the device that you're controlling. So just look really carefully at your instructions if you're going to use a switch like this. They use different color wires on the ones that I get, so I can't really say which one to put where, but I always just set it up with a simple light to make sure I've got this working properly before I put it on the rest of the boombox. I also put this little light in the mini keg because I noticed it's got a hole on the bottom. I thought it would be cool to have light shining through. It's not that cool, so I wouldn't worry about doing that, but that's something that this box does have on it. So that's a brief look at the parts, and you can see I just got the parts shoved in here. Here's the light. This is my hookup for the amplifier. This is another way you could do that DC 5521 connection. You could just buy these parts like this. male, female, and then you could just take some wire like this and then hook it up to these. So I did that for one of these cords. This is going to the amp, and then for other ones I just used the one that I bought like that. Okay, so this picture shows all the parts that I just explained, and here is how to set them up. So start with the battery, and you have your connector boxes here. This is the positive line to the battery, so that's usually the first one that I set up, a wire that goes from the positive to a connector box. And then you'll have a negative black wire going to a different connector box. Now those two boxes can provide power to the rest of the components. The next thing I hook up is the charge port, and that's going to be directly connected to the battery. So again, you'll hook up your red line there, and you'll hook up your black line there. So now the charge port can directly access the battery. That's what this thing will plug into. Wall charger goes into the charge port, recharges the battery. And then the third thing that has direct access to the battery is the switch. So the switch has a line that goes to the battery. It gets its power from there. It also has a black line going to the battery, so it's flowing to the battery. And then it's got a third wire that goes to the device that it's controlling. So that's what the third connector box is. And all the other components are hooked up to that switch. So you have the USB charger here, which is hooked up to the switch, and it's also got a black line that goes back to the same black box as everything else. You have this LED light, which is optional if you want it. Comes on when the stereo's on, so that goes to the device box, and then it's got a black line that goes back to the same one as everything else. And then the amplifier again gets its power from this connector box from the switch, so it's not directly tied to the battery, it's only tied to the switch, which is tied to the battery. And then the amplifier has a black wire, same as everything else. So this black box touches everything. This switched on box just touches the things that you want the switch to control, and then the main power touches the charger and the switch. And then you have your speaker here, which hooks up to the amplifier with two wires. That's the only wires for that. And that's pretty much the whole setup. The one thing that's not really shown here is a fuse. I'll usually put it right between the battery and the first connector box. And so for this, you can just hook up some wires to either side of it using these blade connectors, and then do that. So that'll go like right here.
Shake that thing like a pro, man. She backed it up on me, I'm like, oh man. I got close enough to it so I know she could hit. System thumping, party jumping, I said